You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're thankful for the memories in FAB Facts.
The yellow paint is out of the bag in the Randomiser.
and it's Blast Off for part 2 of a free Intergalactic Rescue 4 story.
Easy for you to say, that's all coming up in pod 247.
Only because I wrote it. Of the very Gerry Anderson podcast.
Not Tugs.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Jamie,
Yes.
Let it go.
Isn't it, that's the lyrics to a famous Disney princess song,
Yes, but
correct?
we know that it was Tugs on the Randomiser last week, but doesn't mean to say it's going to be Tugs on the Randomiser this week.
Well, who knows? As we know, the rules of the universe, the laws of physics have been broken. So,
right, okay.
I got straight on the blower to Professor Brian Cox to see what was matter and if anything else was collapsing around our ears. So thanks, Chris Dale, for that. The reason I'm saying that, if you're new to this podcast, is every week Chris Dale joins us at some point and he does the Randomiser, which is a random episode of a random Gerry Anderson show. But last week, he did a random not Gerry Anderson show. And it very much discombobulated me.
It did, didn't it?
Anyway, I am the discombobulated Jamie Anderson, and over there is
I'm
you.
the cool, calm, and collected Richard James.
Okay, fair enough. Very good. And also joining us later, the breaker of rules, Chris Dale, also known as the Randomiser. We can call him all sorts of things these days, I think. But
oh dear, he is on the naughty step, isn't he?
No, it's fine. It'll all be fine, probably. Right. So we do the Gerry Anderson podcast, which you're listening to right now, because you are, and now you're listening. You're a podster on officially.
That's just a fact.
Whether you've been on for ages or you're just here just now, you're now a podster on. So thank you for being that. We've got all sorts of stuff coming up, and Richard's going to talk you through it.
Oh,
in a very hasty style.
Oh,
kind of bullet pointed.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right now.
Okay. FAB Facts.
Yep.
Gerry Anderson News. Mm-hmm. Randomiser. Mm-hmm. Second part of Intergalactic Rescue 4, The Slave Trader.
Uh-huh.
Podsterons, emails, Facebook posts, and YouTube comments.
Brilliant. I'm not sure why that inspired giggles, but I'm very glad it did. It's a bit weird.
It just felt very odd.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's probably one of the most rapid-fire ones we've done. I'm sure we've done a bullet-pointed one before, but...
but it's very strange, isn't it? Because I do like to talk, as you know.
Absolutely. Well, thank goodness, because, someone's got to fill the dead air that I leave all the time. So that's it. Yes, Postron, welcome along, and we hope you have a great time here at Pod 247.
Mm-hmm. And, take a look around, see if you like the place, see if you like what we've done with it. It's good.
Absolutely. Put your feet up. But it's all very relaxed and casual. We want you to feel like one of the family. You are one of the family.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't change your name by default to Anderson.
No,
that'd be weird.
That's right. Yeah, that'd be strange.
But otherwise, you're part of the family. So
now you mentioned that. You mentioned names. I wonder if there are more Jameses listening than Andersons.
Oh, well, how are we going to find that out?
Well, by email, surely. Email us podcast@gerryanderson.com if you're a James or an Anderson, and in the subject line say James or Anderson.
Can I just say...
Yeah?
You can only do that if your surname is James, because otherwise you've obviously got a massive advantage there.
No,
because
of course.
I technically would have to email in and say I'm a James, even though I'm an Anderson too.
No, we don't want that.
So,
no, we don't want that. Surnames only. James or Anderson. Who's listening?
Thank goodness you clarified.
Yeah.
Right, anything else before I can move on to FAB Facts?
No, I'm just trying to stall. Go on.
Good, okay. Well, here's the highlight of this part of the show, running up to the end of FAB Facts at least. It's FAB Facts.
Completely delusional.
Now, time for this week's FAB Facts.
Yes, FAB Facts. I've got a book of FAB Facts right here. Here are all those lovely pages.
Lovely.
There's so many pages.
There they
I'm going to flick through it in a moment, and Richard's going to shout FAB. That will stop me flicking, and hopefully upon that page will be a fact, which some may classify as FAB. Otherwise, if you're Richard, you might not classify
I might just shrug nonchalantly. Yeah.
FAB. Yes, exactly. So, Richard, are you ready with your FAB?
Born ready.
Good. My thumb is nice and dry. The book is primed and ready. Here
Excellent.
we go. Whoa! Sorry, I'm just going to say my thumb slipped into a crevice between pages and momentarily stopped the flicking, but the flicking continued.
I did notice.
So sorry about that.
Was your thumb too dry, do you think?
I don't know what happened, really. I think maybe it stuck against a page and collapsed it. Anyway, disaster. But disaster averted because we do have a fab fact. So,
Relief.
Richard, ready?
Yes. Yeah, go on.
I'm sure you remember a show called UFO, don't you?
Well, yes.
Well, that's a relief, because this fab fact is all about UFO and memory.
Oh.
It's specifically, in fact, the way in which Shadow dealt with those members of the public who got a bit too close to the organisation's activities and needed to be made to forget.
Forget what?
Very good, very good. Nice. He's an actor. Actor, performer, mimic, all sorts. Yeah. Anyway, decades before Will Smith was issued with his neuralizer pen to wipe people's memories of alien encounters in Men in Black, Shadow were doing much the same thing, though arguably with a little bit less style and panache, perhaps?
Yeah, right, yeah.
So you may recall that Shadow had an amnesia drug which could be administered either by injection, as Dr. Fraser does in both the Dalek Affair and The Sound of Silence, or ingested in a tasteless form, as in non-tasting, I guess, rather than, that's a bit tasteless. For instance, it was put in coffee in the square triangle. Now, normally these would erase all memory of the last 12 hours or so, and then the recipient would be returned home, never to have any contact with Shadow again, unless, of course, they were a pretty lady that they'd got on well with before the drug was administered, in which case they could expect a follow-up visit from Paul Foster.
Not weird at all.
It was the late 1960s, let's not go there.
No.
However, did you know that the original plan for Shadow's amnesia procedure involved a bit more cooperation on the part of the person whose memory needed to be edited? Well, a document passed to the UFO production team in January 1969 outlined a piece of hardware that would ultimately never be used in the show, the Shadow Amnesia Watch.
Oh,
yes,
I like the sound of that. Yeah.
So this document explained that anyone needing to be taken back to Shadow HQ for interrogation would be asked to put the watch on. Not made to, of course, just asked, very politely.
Yeah.
It's very British, you know. Shadow may be an international anti-alien organisation, but we're still British, and so we asked nicely. Actually, to be fair, normally Shadow would just do whatever they wanted, so I'm surprised they asked.
Yes, true.
This watch face had some flashing neon colours on it, while the back had a few small needles and suckers and things that would be connected directly to the wearer's skin.
Oh, crikey.
It's a bit horrible, isn't it? By the time they arrived at the studio, the watch would have begun drip-feeding them a drug that would gradually induce drowsiness. And by the time they were returned home, they would have forgotten all about their visit.
Right.
It's quite dark, isn't it?
It is rather, yes.
So, although the Shadow Amnesia watches never appeared in the show, as with a lot of things in UFO, the plan was to make use of a prop that had previously been seen in Doppelganger.
Aha.
The wrist cardiac monitors worn by Eurosec personnel throughout the film. Obviously, Shadow would need some way to make members of the public forget their encounters with aliens, and the amnesia drugs seen in the show are so simple and efficient as a concept that it's hard to imagine anything else was ever even considered. But the initial vague concept of the amnesia watch was perhaps devised firstly as a way to reuse an existing prop, rather than to provide a credible plot device. And even the document itself admitted that there was room for flexibility in how it could be used. For instance, it doesn't really explain how the watch would remove the wearer's memory of anything that happened before they put it on. Unlike the amnesia drugs, the amnesia watch seems to have been devised to only remove their memory of the visit to Shadow HQ, rather than any encounters with aliens, which was the main purpose of the amnesia drugs otherwise.
Yes.
This document also mentions that the watch would normally be turned off during any interrogation or interview, and so the visitor would remember everything that happened during that time. In other words, they'd have a clear memory of a total stranger asking them things like, what do you know about the aliens? And how big was that UFO? But not where that conversation took place.
Right. I mean, I think we've all had a few nights like that, haven't we?
Absolutely, yes. I often wake up to those questions.
Yes.
So, as outlined in the memo, the Shadow Amnesia Watch seems to be a bit counterproductive for an organisation trying to keep the existence of aliens secret from the public. But still, might have made quite a cool toy.
Well, exactly. I suspect that's what they were thinking, weren't they?
Yeah, so, I mean, Postrons, would you have bought a Shadow Amnesia Watch toy?
Well, maybe they did and they've forgotten about it.
Perhaps, and if there's one for nice, yes. Gosh, maybe we've all forgotten about it.
Exactly.
Maybe
Exactly.
a terrible thing that happened in the history of British toy production, where we all bought these watches and now nobody can remember it. It's like the silence in Doctor Who, isn't it?
Oh, yes,
the minute
that's
you
right.
look away from the
You've
toy
forgotten
watch.
Well, it's a bit like this podcast, isn't it? The minute it's over, you've forgotten all about it.
Thank goodness for small mercies. Anyway, there we go. So, yes, would you have bought it? Would you like Podsteron to actually use a Shadow Amnesia watch for some reason? Perhaps during the listening of this podcast. I don't know. Do email us your thoughts to podcast@gerryanderson.com.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
If you can remember why you're emailing it, of course.
Exactly, yeah.
Gosh. So
Well
there
done.
you go.
Nice.
Let's hope that we can forget all about this one. But I think that brings us to the end of this week's Amnesia Fact.
What?
Oh, you forgot.
I forgot. What we're doing?
Don't worry, let's move on.
Oh, sorry, have we had FAB Facts?
Yes,
Oh,
definitely.
gosh.
And you really enjoyed it.
Oh, did I? Oh,
Yeah.
right, great.
You,
Thanks for
you
letting
were
me know.
whooping and cheering. And
Was I?
God, it was quite amazing.
How out of character?
You actually said I
Anyway.
should get an award for this week's Fab Fact.
Did I? I can't believe that. Oh, that's weird that I can't remember it. Anyway, let's head on over to our email bag. Another bumper crop this week, of course. This is from Alan J. Porter. Hi, Jamie and Richard. I just wanted to drop you a note to let you know about the great service from Louise Everson in Customer Relations. Well, we know all about Louise, of course. Alan says, a short while back I opened the front door to receive my much-anticipated package from Anderson Entertainment, containing my UFO technical manual and XL5 comics anthology. Unfortunately, the top of the packing had become dislodged, and the contents were open to the rain. Yes, we do get rain here in Texas from time to time, says Alan. As it turned out, while the book covers were damp, there was only a minor amount of moisture on the edge of the pages, and the books were generally in, well, readable condition. I dropped a note to the fine folks at the store, more to let them know about the damaged packaging than anything, and said they don't need to bother sending replacements, as I'd managed to dry the books out. Well, they weren't going to listen to me, and Louise was straight on the case, and after a few email exchanges sent me 2 new pristine copies delivered in the most effective protective book packaging I've seen in a long time, and I buy a lot of books online. The exchanges at each step were friendly, polite and informative. Kudos to everyone involved, says Alan. Well, that's good, isn't it? We like a success story.
Lovely, we do indeed.
By the way, says Alan, as someone who's spent most of their career associated with the technical publishing profession, I must applaud you on the production values and content of the UFO Technical Manual. At one time, I ran the technical publications team at British Aerospace and started my career writing tech manuals for Concorde, so I'm pretty hard to please when it comes to anything with the words technical manual on the cover. As an aside, I'm currently researching and writing a book on the Bristol Brabazon, the largest land aircraft ever built in Britain. It was intended to be a luxurious ocean liner of the skies, but just one prototype was built and flown before the project was scrapped in 1953. There was a lot of publicity around the Brabazon at the time, and on each occasion I find a new photo or mention of the plane in newspapers or movies, etc. I keep thinking that Gerry Anderson and Derek Meddings must have known about it, and I wonder if it informed any of their ideas for giant passenger-carrying craft in the various series. I've attached a photo, so you get an idea of its size and sleek look. What do you think? Asks Alan. Anderson-esque? Well, yes, absolutely. I took a look at that picture.
So.
Yes, and of course, I'm sure they were inspired by it. I think they had their antennae out all the time, didn't they, to scan for topical news items and new designs to incorporate into the series?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. Lovely. Thanks for that, Alan. Peach says, hi, Jamie and Richard. Hope you're both well. I just wanted to congratulate Richard on the new 5-Star 5 book. Like the first book, once I started reading, I couldn't stop until I'd read the whole story.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm really enjoying them. Peach says it's a shame the original movie was never made. I think it would have been brilliant, but then we might not have had these stories from Richard. Lost track on whether there's been a teaser for more 5-Star 5 in the future, says Peach. I really hope so. I need to know what happens next. Thanks so much. Keep up the fab work. And that's from Peach.
Oh.
Well, I mean...
We shall see, eh?
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Simpsons Clips 24 says, hello, Richard and Jamie. Simpsons Clips here. Now, I'm not sure if the name Victor Lewis Smith will ring any bells. He was a broadcaster, newspaper columnist and telephone prankster. But for my email this week, I thought I'd ask you something related to him. So, I've noticed in his productions that he makes various references to Thunderbirds. For example, in Inside Victor Lewis Smith, a character says something along the lines of, "Under those bandages is a blowtorched Thunderbird puppet." Another instance is that in his parody of the BAFTA Awards, known as the BAFTAs, he claims that Bonnie Langford was the real human hands in Thunderbirds, which leads me to ask, was Victor Lewis Smith an Anderson fan? SIG, Simpsons Clips 24.
Well, it sounds like it, doesn't it?
Almost certainly. Do you know Victor Lewis Smith? Does the name ring a bell?
No, it really doesn't.
Cultural commentator, sort of comedian. I think he died last year, actually. I remember various of his TV series. I'm sure he was a Thunderbirds fan. He certainly would have known all about it. Mark Perkins got in touch. Good morning, podcasts. I've just finished listening to the final part of the Keith Shackleton interview and thought I'd let you know that I found it totally fascinating. One of the most interesting you've ever featured, I think. Crikey.
Oh, wow.
In 245 pods, that's good going. I consider myself to be very lucky to have grown up in the best era for Ander fans, the 60s. My earliest TV memories are of watching Stingray every week, and I bought the TV Century 21 comic and the toys and annuals as they came out over the next few years, and of course went on to become a massive fan of Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet. Hearing the story behind all these products, some of which I still have, was totally compelling, so much so that I've decided to listen to all 3 parts again, which is testament to how much I enjoyed it. I'd come across Keith in the Life Uncharted documentary, but didn't realise how involved he was in so many Anderson shows and products. What a charming and interesting guy, and a real revelation that he was a friend of Gerry's from his National Service days. I love it when you manage to find interviews of people who actually worked with Gerry, and I'm looking forward to more archive discoveries. Thanks as ever for your weekly, highly entertaining podcast. You've managed to achieve the impossible and make Monday mornings one of the highlights of the week. Regards from Mark Perkins.
Lovely. Mark, you'll be pleased to know that coming from this Saturday will be the video version of Keith's interview.
Ah, okay.
Because people have enjoyed it so much that we're cutting it up into 7 or 8 bits and pieces.
Ah, great.
And we're publishing it weekly on the YouTube channel, so you can see his interview, get some illustrations of what he's talking about.
Oh,
and,
lovely.
It was just another way to enjoy it, so there you go.
Great, nice. This final one is from Steve Watson, a.k.a. The Impodsteron. Hi, me lovely threesome, says Stephen. Listening to the interesting recollections from Keith Shackleton made me think back to my own childhood and the toys I had. That is not Mousetrap or Etch-a-Sketch or Spirograph and the like, but things you whiz around with and push. I had a couple of Hot Wheels and a Cosmic Kiddie, don't ask. But as for the rest... Fireball XL5 with catapult, model of Stingray in the bath with rotating yellow thing at the back, Thunderbird 1... Thunderbird 2, large plastic at 7 shillings and 11 pence, and small green metal Thunderbird 2 with spring-out legs, a Thunderbird 5 with exciting mystery action and flashing lights, a metal Fab 1 with missile at the start, Spectrum MSV complete with gold bullion or radioactive isotopes, a Joe 90 metal air car, and I thought, blimey, that Mr. Keith knew his stuff. Basically, my entire play collection was from TV Century 21. Now
Amazing.
left... none left, sadly, he says. Ah, well, all the best. None left, Stephen. Crikey,
That's
I wonder what happened to all
sad,
that.
isn't it?
Yeah, but that's life, isn't it?
That's what all the people say.
That's right, indeed. There we are. Do let us know. I mean, that Keith Shackleton interview really seems to have touched a nerve with a lot of listeners, which is lovely to hear.
A good nerve.
Yeah, exactly. Let us know if you had any of those toys as a child, what you remember specifically, and drop us a line at podcast@gerryanderson.com, and I will read out those along with other emails next week.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks. Look forward to it.
You're welcome.
Before then, though, I think we've probably got some Gerry Anderson news to share with you. So would you like some Gerry Anderson news?
Yes, please.
Here is some incoming Gerry Anderson news. It's the Gerry Anderson newsy news, and there's always some news. So here's some news, beginning with... So let's start with World Book Day. Well, World Book Day has been and gone, but we've got a World Book Day competition where you can win a bunch of books worth quite a lot of money, actually. But the competition is about to close. Head over to Twitter and you will find our pinned post where you can retweet and follow and comment with GAWBD giveaway, I think. It's a really catchy hashtag anyway, and you could be in with a chance to win, but the competition closes on the 7th of March. As you may also have seen, the Cartoon Museum's Century 21 exhibition is now open. It's a capsule exhibition. It is quite small, but perfectly formed and beautifully curated. You can see it alongside the Cartoon Museum in London's full normal collection. And in there you'll see my Stingray model, which normally lives in my office but is temporarily housed in its new pen at the Cartoon Museum.
Oh, exciting.
And that's open until the 4th of June, so you've got plenty of time to get down there. I hope you enjoy it. Lots of lovely feedback from it so far. This Friday is the 10th of March, and because it's the 10th, it means it's part of our countdown to the 40th anniversary of Terrahawks, the 10th of October, 1010. So on the 10th of each month, we're celebrating something Terrahawks, and this month, again, we've got another competition coming up, and you can have a chance, a giveaway I should say, you can have a chance to win some Terrahawks goodies.
Oh, that sounds great.
If you've missed the pre-order window for To Everything That Was, then I'm afraid it's up to full price now, so you can still pre-order it, but you'll be paying that little bit extra. Sorry, but we can't keep those pre-order prices open forever. If you are also looking for some Space 1999 action figures, then our Koenig, Bergman and Morrow 6-inch action figures from 1612 are about to arrive in stock. We have one allocation. I don't think we'll be getting any more, so if you want to grab those, then they will be shipping very, very shortly. Stingray fans, the Stingray vinyl, which lots of you have been asking about after the original soundtrack release, is now available for pre-order and will be shipping, I think, in April. Double check that on the product page, but it is coming. As we mentioned before, there's a huge delay on vinyl production because it's just been so popular. So these vinyl releases will follow the soundtrack releases on the CD after a month or two. Speaking of a CD release, well, would you believe it? Little Joe 90, bless his cotton socks. He's got a soundtrack release as well. The CD is coming on the 14th of April and you can pre-order it from this week. And finally, something which I think is rather lovely, the Keith Shackleton TV21 story is coming out on our YouTube channel on a weekly basis. You will love the Keith interview so much that we found a way to present it where the video quality doesn't detract from what Keith is saying. And Ross and the team are putting that out on a weekly basis on Saturdays. Part 1 is already out. Fascinating 7 minutes or so, but lots more to come over the next few weeks, really to line up with the Cartoon Museum's fantastic capsule exhibition of everything comic from the worlds of Anderson. I think you'll all thoroughly enjoy it. And that is the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. That was the news.
Very nice. Slightly muted, restrained. That was the news from you there,
Well,
I thought.
do you know why? Now you brought it up.
Go on, why?
Well, I was trying to hold back a burp as I sang that.
The multi-talented,
Can I just say-
anti-flatulent Richard
yeah,
James.
exactly. Can I just say, I did hold back a burp.
That's extremely impressive. It's all those years of training and
Yes.
all that experience really paid dividends, hasn't
How
it?
funny that you noticed.
Sorry, it did sound like you sat awkwardly. Oh no, it's coming. Anyway, beautiful
funny.
stuff.
Yeah. Anyway,
have you got anything more? Not from your windy stomach, but from
of course not.
Postrons?
Yes. Well, while we're here, why not head on over to our Facebook group and see what's been going on there? It's very easy to
Why
join
not?
in. Yeah, just head. Well, actually, probably the best thing to do is to search for the Podstrons official listeners group, and you'll find it that way. Answer a couple of questions, we'll let you in, and you can join in the conversation. Willow Lambden Smith, for example, recently posted, "Picture the scene. I'm at the pub." Yes, I know that stories that start this way don't always go well, but work with me here. So, I'm at the pub, and I'm chatting away, and my friend points at my necklace. Her. That's an interesting necklace. Me. Thanks, I made it a few months ago. Her. Whose is it? Me. John's. Her. John? Ha! Well, there aren't any pharaohs called John. Me, totally confused. You what now? Pharaohs? Her. Isn't it a sarcophagus? Me. It's Thunderbird 5. Awkward. But it looks lovely. She posted a picture, and of course it's Thunderbird 5. Very nicely done.
A sarcophagus.
What? It's crazy, isn't it? Now, Alex Patrick said, "A while ago I pointed out that Thunderbirds never had an episode with a double cross, but I've just remembered they've always had a mole in their organisation."
Oh, wah, 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 wah. Nice.
There we go. Now, we've been talking a lot of 5 Star 5 recently, of course, because the latest book, the second in the series, The Doomsday Device, has recently become available and has been plopping onto people's doormats around the country, probably around the world, to be honest. Now, when mine arrived, I posted a picture on the Facebook group of the 2 volumes so far of the 5 Star 5 series, and I asked the question, I wonder what Gerry would have thought, which is a question I often think when I'm writing these things. Alex Pass commented, well, it's lunchtime, so he'd probably be thinking, where can I get a decent jacket spud? Oh, and look, that Richard James has done another excellent book. He's a good fella. I don't know what Jamie keeps complaining about.
he might think that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but actually, here's an interesting one from Morty Vicker, which I think probably hits the nail on the head a bit more. From the picture of the man that's been painted these 244 weeks, I think he'd likely be non-committal and nonchalant to your face, but inwardly hugely proud and appreciative, like he would about all that you guys are doing.
That sounds
Doesn't that
pretty
sound
good,
right?
I think, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Lovely, yeah. Nice. Thanks, Morty.
There you go. Lynn McKinnon said, was Jamie Anderson aware that his name crops up in an episode of NCIS? Season 19, Episode 6, False Start, as a victim of a case involving gene manipulation in sealed laboratories and steroids. We had to rewind on Disney Plus, but we heard it right. Oh.
No, I was not aware that I was a victim of that interesting technologies, but thank you for letting me know. That explains a lot.
Yes, Daniel Dudley is giving voice to a thought that crops up occasionally in the worlds of Gerry Anderson. Hey, Podstrons, he says, I feel like after the success of a Life Uncharted documentary, the next thing they should do is a Gerry Anderson biopic. Think about it, a big screen drama about a man overcoming adversity, being forced to work with puppets, being turned down for his life's goal, working in live action, and they could dramatise his family life and death of his brother, setting up in the film industry, and Roberta Lee telling him he's got to make it with puppets, and Lou Gray telling him that Thunderbirds should be longer, that the Secret Service wouldn't work out in the United States, that his turbulent marriage to Sylvia, how he met the influential people in his life like Lou Gray, Reg Hill, Derek Meddings, Barry Gray and David Graham. I think it would work great as a biopic. Very popular. They're very popular right now, and they even did one about how McDonald's got started. So there.
Arguably, I'd say McDonald's is probably a better known worldwide brand.
Well, that's the thing, yes.
But equally, Nolly recently on ITVX from Russell T Davies. I mean, I wouldn't say Nolly is necessarily that
world
well
class.
known.
No.
Worldwide, so, maybe there's something there. Certainly something that we've thought about, but let's see. You never know.
Yeah. And finally, for now, Earl Black commented, I've just heard the latest podcast. I just wanted to thank Jamie Anderson and Anderson Entertainment and team for looking into warehousing options for Japan, New Zealand and Australia. Just the fact that you're looking at those options, no guarantees I know, but just the fact you're looking makes it so nice. Thank you to your wonderful team.
Oh, well, thank you very much. We are doing our best. We are making strides on the international front, actually, I must say.
Good.
So,
excellent.
I reckon 6 or 8 weeks we should have some pretty solid news for people.
Nice.
I'm hoping.
Well
we're doing our best to make things as easy as possible, and for us and for you, actually, I have to say.
Well, quite. Yes, exactly. Yeah. All for now, but do, if you're on Facebook, join in the fun. We often say it's the friendliest place on Facebook, and it really is. You'll find out if you join in.
Not just on Facebook, on the internet.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that's right.
Possibly in the world.
All right. I think that's
in the universe.
Okay.
Anyway, Richard, it may be enough from Positrons, but it's not enough from you. We've got part 2 of something that you did that has been read by Wayne Forrester. Would you inform us, for those of us who don't know what's coming?
Yes, well, last week you would have heard the first part of, I was going to say never before heard. Some of you would have seen it on YouTube, but many of you Podstrons listening now wouldn't have seen it prior to this. The first part of The Slave Trader, the first story, adventure, mission in the novelisation Intergalactic Rescue 4 Stellar Patrol, from an original treatment by Gerry Anderson in the 1970s, novelised by me, released through Anderson Entertainment and voiced by Wayne Forrester.
I couldn't say it better myself, yeah. So here's part 2 of IGR4 Slave Trader.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Jason leaned back against the wall. Where is he taking you? To the planet below us. Okron gestured to a monitor, where an image of the giant planet turned against the blackness of space. There he will sell us to the highest bidder. Jason was thinking things through. Did you sabotage his ship in an effort to escape? Okron shook his head. We would be unable to do such a thing. The atmosphere aboard is laced with a chemical that acts like a sedative upon us. It's only now we are aboard your ship that we can think more clearly. So that's why you're loath to save him, Anne nodded in understanding. If you spare his life, you rob us of ours. Ocron's eyes brimmed with tears as he spoke. Jason looked to Anne. What do we do? We can't just leave him to die. Anne held his gaze. But if we let him live, we're condemning these people to a life in captivity. Alpha gave a beep from the floor.
May I remind you,
he began, after the robot equivalent of clearing his throat,
that Earth control is clear in this matter. Intergalactic Rescue Force function is purely rescue. No interference is allowed with the customs and practices of any alien society.
Jason crouched down to meet Alpha's mechanical eye. Customs and practices? He repeated. This is more than some quaint religious belief.
We've always done things by the book, Jason.
Anne touched him on the shoulder. Sometimes the book is just plain wrong. Jason rose angrily. If we rescue Antar and send him on his merry way with his cargo, we're complicit in these people's fate.
Be that as it may,
Alpha interjected.
We have just 3 minutes and 27 seconds before the tractor beam fails.
We can't just leave him. Jason planted a fist into his open palm in frustration. A sudden scream filled the air. On the screen, the pilot was writhing in agony.
Which pipe do I cut?
Zeta was asking.
Guidance requested.
His laser torch was poised.
3 minutes precisely,
Alpha announced from the floor. Anne wheeled round to see Ocron in quiet consultation with his fellow slaves. As they concluded their conversation, they each made the strange sign over their chests. I am trained as a rocket scientist, Ocron announced at last. Jason and Anne were speechless. Before the slave times, my race lived in relative peace and prosperity on Thika 7. I lived a life of learning. Then Antar's race came to subdue us. We were forbidden many things, education, employment, freedom. We were made slaves.
How?
Anne asked, breathless. His people have developed a chemical that induces compliance. That, together with my race's natural pacifist tendencies, make us the perfect candidates for repression. If you know that ship's systems, you've got to save him, Jason yelled desperately. Can you really leave a man, any man, to die in this way? Ocron nodded slowly and stepped forward. Let me talk to your robot. Anne punched the comms button.
Zeta,
she began, the next voice you hear will be Ocron, one of the slaves we rescued. Do exactly as he says. She nodded to the alien beside her. Go ahead. First, you'll need to plug yourself into the engine systems. He squinted into the screen. There's an access port on the wall to your right. The assembled party watched as Zeta turned and trundled to the portal. Uncoiling an appendage from his squat body, he inserted a jack and turned it until it locked into place. The portal beeped in response.
I'm in,
said Zeta. Good, Ocron nodded. Now you'll need to burn off the excess fuel, purge the tanks. Zeta beeped in response as the portal began flashing a warning red.
Fuel tank evacuation imminent,
came a disembodied voice. That is good, Ocron confirmed. Alpha, barked Jason. Switch screen to exterior view. He watched as the display changed to show the stricken vessel held fast in the tractor beam.
You have just 93 seconds to effect a rescue,
Alpha stated. Thanks, Jason murmured as he watched the fuel escape from the craft in billowing clouds of vapor. Now, continued Ocron, his face a mask of concentration, you may cut the cables without fear of cutting the fuel line. Zeta withdrew his jack from the access portal and sped back to the figure lying prone on the floor. Let's see it, Alpha, commanded Jason, and the view on the screen switched to Zeta's point of view. Several thick cables snaked over the pilot's wounded leg. Cutting just one of them would make it easier to lift the man to safety, but which one? Cut the twisted cable to your left. the one that travels beneath the blue duct. The image zoomed in on an innocuous length of pipe. Yes, nodded Ocron, that is the one. Zeta raised his laser torch and brought it to bear on the cable. With a shout of sparks, it split cleanly in two.
I can move,
the pilot rasped.
I can move my leg.
With a supreme effort, Antar pulled his wounded limb clear of the remaining cables and lifted himself onto his elbows.
Zeta,
bellowed Anne into the comms console.
You got just 40 seconds to get clear.
Make it as far as the docking arm and I'll seal the airlock,
added Jason. Quick, he shouted to Anne. Let's get to the flight deck. I need to operate the controls from there. As the screen snapped off, the two young pilots sprinted from the room, leaving Ocron and his fellow slaves standing in a sullen silence. Jason threw himself into his seat and set about his controls.
20 seconds remain,
offered Alpha as he limped onto the flight deck.
Do you think he'll make it?
Anne gave what she hoped was a reassuring smile. Yes, she soothed. Anne knew Alpha wasn't asking about the pilot. I'm sure he will. Punch it up on the screen, Alpha, barked Jason from his chair, and, in an instant, Zeta's view of his journey to the docking arm unrolled before them.
12 seconds,
intoned Alpha as calmly as he could. The screen showed Zeta's progress through the slave ship. Every now and then, an arm dangled into view at the top of the picture, an indication that the diminutive robot had hoisted the injured pilot onto his robotic shoulders.
Quicker!
Yelled the pilot in panic, and it was all Anne could do not to join in.
5 seconds.
The airlock to the docking arm was visible now, and the picture tilted as Zeta scooted round bare cables and equipment that littered the floor.
3 seconds.
Anne and Jason held their breath.
2.
I have reached the airlock,
came Zeta's calm voice from the comms.
1.
Jason stabbed at a button. I've closed the airlock. At that, the screen fizzed to static. The ship jolted dangerously. Zete! Screamed Jason above the noise of the rending metal. Did you make it? Silence. I've got to let go the tractor beam. The ship lurched again.
We're falling,
panted Anne as she grabbed at the flight console. The cockpit was tilting at a crazy angle.
Let go the tractor beam.
Zete! Jason wiped the sweat from his eyes. Did you make it?
Planetary collision in T-24 seconds,
Alpha exclaimed. Anne was sure she could detect a note of concern in his mechanical voice. Zete, Jason whispered sadly. We gotta go. He reached out to punch at a button on his console. I'm sorry.
Docking arm retracting,
said Alpha as the cockpit suddenly quietened. Okay, breathed Anne with relief. I'm taking us back to a safe distance. With a hum of its engines, Intergalactic Rescue 4 retreated to a higher orbit. An unnerving calm descended on the flight deck as its three occupants gazed at the image on the screen. The slave ship, free of the tractor beam, was tumbling through the planet's upper atmosphere, a glowing ball of fire. Debris broke away as it burned. Alpha's visual sensors pulsed gently as he watched.
When humans experience the loss of another, what do they feel?
Anne turned to face the robot, her eyes sad. We feel an emptiness, she explained. We call it grief. Alpha looked downcast.
Then I feel grief.
Al, came a voice from the doorway.
I feel fantastic.
Zete! Jason had a wide grin on his face. You made it! Zeta was standing proudly in the door, the rather bemused pilot beside him, his leg caked with blood.
Of course I made it. I'm only sorry my visual feed was interrupted in the docking arm. Static, I guess.
We need to get this man to the infirmary. Anne took the pilot by the arm to lead him away. He hobbled painfully into the corridor beyond, his eyes wide in bemusement. As Jason followed, Zeta turned to his robot companion. Alpha was beeping gently to express his pleasure.
Did ya miss me?
Zeta squeaked, with a flash of his visual sensors that could only be described as a cheeky wink.
Miss you?
Alpha responded with a harumph.
I barely noticed you were gone.
He did what?
Strangely, Antar seemed almost angry. Following his treatment in the infirmary, he had been led to the canteen for some refreshment. He was a squat figure, Anne noticed. Used to a planet with a greater gravitational pull, he had a sour-looking face and nervous, shifty eyes. As he was handed a plate of flavored protein, Antar Kosen found himself face-to-face with Okron and the other slaves. "This is Okron," began Jason.
He is number 470,
Antar interrupted, jabbing towards the slave with his fork.
It says so on his neck.
Anne noticed Okron cover his branded mark with his robe, suddenly self-conscious. "He is a scientist," she said sharply. "The only one of us who understood your ship's engines." She leaned in, almost threatening. "He saved your life." Antar swallowed a mouthful of food.
Then he is a fool.
"Perhaps I am," interjected Okron sadly, "but I am an honorable fool." Jason turned to the slave leader, eager to calm the situation. "We'll talk with Antar," he whispered. "Follow the lights on the wall to the Astrodome. We will let you know the outcome soon." He pushed at a wall console, and a line of lights led the way from the canteen. "We have but one demand," Okron replied. "A dinghy to take us home." He looked at the slave trader with narrow eyes. "And away from him." Jason nodded. "I'll see what I can do." Satisfied, Okron led his party from the canteen, following the flashing lights towards the Astrodome. "Consider what that man did for you," said Jason when they were alone. He was having trouble containing his feelings.
It is irrelevant.
Antar looked unimpressed.
It changes nothing.
"You wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for Okron," added Anne. "Surely he deserves something in return." Antar spluttered on his food.
"You mean his freedom?"
Anne nodded. "Freedom for him and his companions." The slave trader pushed his empty plate away and swung back on his chair.
He called himself honorable.
Anne noticed he couldn't even bring himself to mention the slave's name.
I too am an honorable man.
"What honor is there in trading slaves?" Jason scoffed. In response, Antar pulled a computer pad from his tunic pocket. Stabbing at the screen, he pulled up a text file to show the young pilots.
"My contract," he explained, "for the delivery of 12 slaves.
He indicated a phrase towards the bottom of the screen.
"Payment on delivery."
"It's obscene." Jason was clenching his fists.
"It's a living,"
Antar replied simply. Slipping the computer pad back into his pocket, he leaned forwards on his elbows.
"I have 3 children," he began, "not much younger than the 2 of you. Their mother died in the Zargon Wars, so I am left alone to provide them with a future."
He gestured to the door.
"Those slaves will provide me with the income I need to send my children to school. It's the biggest run of my career."
He tapped his pocket.
"And the biggest payment."
Anne pulled up a chair opposite. "Surely you owe it to your children to show them a better way. How would they feel, knowing they profited from the misery of others?"
"It is the way,"
Antar shrugged.
"It always has been."
Jason rounded on him. "My father used to say those are the 4 worst words in the English language." He planted his palms on the table and leaned in close. Just because a thing has always been done a certain way doesn't make it the only way. There was a silence as the slave trader contemplated the young man's words. At last, he pushed his chair back from the canteen table and stood.
"I heard word of a dinghy," he said. "I would be grateful if you would put it at my disposal so I can fulfill my contract."
With that, Antar swept from the room, leaving Anne and Jason to gaze at one another, dumbstruck. "Intergalactic Rescue Force function is purely rescue," said Anne softly. "No interference is allowed with the customs and practices of any alien society." Jason shook his head.
"Then tell me," he hissed, "just who have we rescued?"
The Astrodome was graced with a large bubble window that protruded from the ship's hull, providing the viewer with an almost 270-degree view of the universe beyond. Jason took in the vista before him, his arm draped gently across Anne's shoulders. Alpha and Zeta squatted on the floor beside them. The crew of Intergalactic Rescue 4 seemed united in solemnity. Beyond the viewing window, the dinghy raced away from the ship and towards the great planet below. Jason and Anne had been powerless to intervene as Antar rounded up his slaves and herded them towards the docking bay. They had watched, helpless, as he fixed their chains with a laser torch and shackled them to the small vessel's walls. Now they stood, disconsolate, as the slave trader departed with his merchandise.
"There was nothing we could do,"
Anne whispered, partly to convince herself. "We did everything by the book." Jason was unimpressed. "How will the universe ever progress if we don't better ourselves? Seems to me that Antar is bound by shackles every bit as restricting as his cargo."
"We tried."
Anne patted his hand as she spoke.
"Course correction,"
squawked Alpha suddenly from the floor. "What?" Jason peered closer at the stars beyond the window to get his bearings. "But we're stationary."
"Not us."
Alpha waved a mechanical arm towards the window.
"Them."
The two pilots' expressions changed to one of wonder as they saw the dinghy peel away from the planet.
"He's changed his mind,"
Anne gasped.
"A new course has been laid into the dinghy's navigational computer."
Alpha clicked and whirred.
"Destination, Thika 7.
A slave's home planet!" Jason squeezed Anne's shoulders in celebration. There was the sound of static as the Astrodome's comm screen crackled to life. The small party recognized Antar at the controls of the dinghy. Behind him, the slaves were seated comfortably, their broken chains discarded on the floor.
"Just because a thing has always been done a certain way doesn't make it the only way."
Antar gave the crew a wry smile. Jason nodded in gratitude. "But your payment?" Anne asked. "And your children?" The slave trader looked around the cockpit.
"I reckon this dinghy will be good for a few thousand credits on the open market. More than enough to get them all through their education."
He leaned in closer to the screen.
"Perhaps they will learn that there is always another way."
"Take it with our pleasure," Jason grinned. He nodded to Okron in the seat behind. "And I hope you get home safely."
"Thank you."
The erstwhile slave smiled.
"For everything."
With a final nod, Antar leaned forward to punch the screen off. For a moment, the little crew of Intergalactic Rescue 4 stood in silence. "That's the first time I've heard you mention your father," Anne said at last, turning to Jason with kind eyes. "Really?" her co-pilot replied nonchalantly. "Well, he was quite a guy. Zete, Alpha, we need to look at the main drive. The couplings need recalibrating." With that, he slipped his arm from Anne's shoulder and walked from the room, leaving the young woman to gaze thoughtfully out the window and to the stars beyond.
Lovely work there.
You see, and a little tease at the end.
Yeah, that's
just
why they call you
Jason,
Teaser James.
Yeah, just why is he acting so mysteriously?
Yeah, must be something up. What's he doing?
What? Do they call me Teaser James?
No, but I've just started a trend, so maybe we will from now. I think you should change your name on Twitter.
Okay.
No, that's great. Now, there's 9 more stories in the book. Now, but unfortunately, if you haven't already got the limited edition hardback, well, it's sold out. However, the full adventure is available on paperback and ebook via Amazon. Paperback also available via the Gerry Anderson store. So go fill your boots, read the next 9 stories and enjoy. Now, obviously, when you do read them, just in case, I should caveat that you will not hear the voice of Wayne Forrester in your head.
Well,
unless you choose to imagine it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, you might do.
But it'll still sound great in your own voice.
And also, a personal plea from me, it'd be great if you read it and enjoy it, if you were to leave a review.
A rating.
Yes, and wherever you bought it, probably Amazon in this case.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yes,
to get some reviews.
Every rating helps. Thank
it
you.
really does, yes. Yeah, good.
Good. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, yes. Now, over on YouTube, it's all happening on the official
YouTube,
Gerry Anderson channel. Oh, yes. People have been commenting over our previous podcast. That interview with Keith Shackleton, Well, a lot of people really liked that. GMLP commented, the interview with Keith Shackleton was first class. Lots of great insights by Keith into those times at the height of Gerry's endeavours and some of the problems that he later encountered. Ian Dealey said, I thoroughly enjoyed the 3-part interview with Keith Shackleton. I've also managed to purchase Gerry Anderson A Life Uncharted to watch on Prime Video, and I have to say that it was absolutely brilliant. John Clay says, good FAB fact about the Space 1999 Series 1 and Space 1999 Series 2 episode. Well done, Richard James, on the Doomsday device. I look forward to the podcast. Good. Excellent. Chris Parks says, my favourite story, yes. Now, this is about the FAB fact about Barbara Bain apparently going home in full makeup and costume and scaring one of her children with her cave woman acting.
Oh, yes, which you weren't sure about, but others were more sure about.
Well, Chris Park says, my favourite story about an actor keeping makeup on after shooting is about Joanna Lumley and Jennifer Saunders being made to look like they were in their 90s for Absolutely Fabulous. They were deliberately made to look as bad as possible and were virtually unrecognisable. When they went out and about for a laugh, someone on the bus heard someone say, oh, look, there's Joanna Lumley over there with that old woman.
Nice.
Harsh.
Ouch.
Yes, and finally, Captain Fabulous 84 says, well, about this story, Juliet, which was one of their children, was 10 in 1975, so it's unlikely to have been her that Barbara scared with her cavewoman impression. But Susan was 15.
Oh, that's more the age, isn't it?
Yes, but more to the point, hearing the show wasn't filmed on the moon makes it feel like my entire childhood was a lie.
It was. Sorry.
Yes, next you'll try and tell me that Thunderbird's characters aren't real people but dolls or something. Fool me once, Jamie, says Captain Fabulous 84.
We would never say such a thing. Don't you worry.
That's right. All for now from YouTube, but I mean, there's a heck of a lot up on the channel now, so go and spend a weekend wading through it and see how you like it.
Wading?
Yeah.
Coasting, sliding, gliding, effortlessly. Come on.
Fine.
Wading makes it sound like an effort.
Oh, well, no, I didn't mean that.
Well,
go on.
Choose your words more carefully.
I will from now on.
Teaser James.
Oh, hey.
Right, shall we hand over to the previously naughty Chris Dale?
Yes, good idea.
Okay, so what Chris does is he comes in with the randomiser, he presses the red button on it, and that chooses a random Gerry Anderson episode, a random Gerry Anderson series, and he says things about it, unless he's sending it off for a service and being tricky.
Yes, very tricky.
So, Anyway, I think we should hand over to Chris and see if he can redeem himself with this week's randomiser. Go on, Chris.
Good evening. Before this week's edition of the Randomiser, I should like to address the many concerns and complaints raised regarding last week's instalment, in which I, Chris Dale, did foolishly and with malice aforethought step outside the non-existent rules of the Randomiser and reviewed an episode of a non-Anderson series. There is no excusing my actions. In my defence, I may say that I foolishly thought covering an episode of a series produced, written and directed by someone who had worked on multiple Anderson shows, and who then used an episode of his own series to produce a loving tribute to his time working on those Anderson shows, was a good idea. But I see now that I was wrong. Foolishly, heinously, treacherously wrong. Even though nobody complained the last time I covered an episode of a non-Anderson series, but there we are. The damage is done, and I can only hope to learn from this experience and earn your forgiveness. Going forward, I vow that the content I provide for you all, for free every single week, will stick strictly to the rigid and inflexible guidelines that you demand I adhere to. Never again shall I attempt to think outside of the box, nor attempt to widen the scope or potential of this segment by placing Anderson's work within a broader context, nor give over any more time or attention to any of the many talented artists and creatives who worked with him to make his shows. I apologise once again for thinking that an episode of a non-Anderson series Made by former Gerry Anderson staff, featuring Anderson actors and Anderson sound effects in which a disaster occurs in an industrial setting resulting in lots of explosions and destruction, could in any way be considered Anderson-related. So, without further ado, we present this week's edition of the Randomiser, which has been thoroughly vetted by the Lords of the Anderson Content Council for any signs of needless deviation or unnecessary frivolity, and which carries my personal guarantee of being 110% free of any non-Anderson content right from the very first second. And now, this week's The Randomiser. Hold it, stop the music, stop everything, stop! Marina, what's going on? Yes, I can see you're dressed as Batgirl, Yvonne Craig lives, but what does that have to do with this week's Randomiser? I mean, if I couldn't get away with munitions without getting my wrist slapped last week, what makes you think you can get away with an episode of Batman? What? What do you mean that's what I told you we were doing? Look, I left you a note, yes, that's it, and it clearly says... That does not say Batman. It does not! Look, B-A-G-M-A-N, see? Bagman. It is a G, that's not a T, look at it. T's don't have curves like that. Well, yeah, okay, my handwriting isn't the greatest, but come on! What's Batman got to do with Anderson, for heaven's sake? Yes, I know Catwoman was in an episode of The Protectors, but... Deep breath. Look, let's just roll Bagman, okay? Oh, holy headache, Batgirl. So, after last week's little detour of a randomizer, which absolutely everybody enjoyed and appreciated, we're back with The Protectors. We're in Copenhagen for, I believe, this is the first episode produced of the second series. And there's a cat. It's of no interest, but our baddie of the week just pointed it out to this young lady that he is escorting from a boat onto a dock, onto the shore, wandering around some other boats. Doctor Who fans, and indeed probably other people in fact, might recognise the young lady that he is escorting and whispering to there. She tried to get away from him there, but he's not having any of that. That caught the attention of a fisherman who looks a lot like Willoughby Goddard. This is Lala Ward of Doctor Who fame. This is our Romana number 2. Several years before she was Romana, indeed several years before there was even a Romana to play. And he's handcuffed her to his car. And now she's crying because she doesn't like that. That's an effective teaser. And they've driven away. Meanwhile, in a very posh place with some very posh people, we find an actress I'm quite fond of. She was always turning up in ITC shows. Patricia Haynes, formerly married to Michael Caine.
Anderson, you are going to give me a great deal of money.
Ooh.
You see, I have your daughter, Evie, with me. I want there to be no doubt in your mind about this, Mrs. Anderson. So I will let you speak to her. But I warn you.
Yes, formerly married to Michael Caine, and at the time this was made was married to Bernard Kay, who also later appeared in The Protectors, and he was the Michelin Man mutant in New Adam, New Eve for Space 1999.
I don't know, it's something about Evie.
Everyone around that dining table is very concerned about Patricia Haynes and her daughter.
Are you there, Mrs. Anderson?
Yes, kidnapper has brought her out of the car.
Do what he says, please. Give him anything he wants. Anything. Please don't let him hurt me.
Oh, don't let him hurt Romana.
Please.
Mrs. Anderson, go to your home now. You will find...
I can't remember the name of this actor playing the baddie, but I'm sure it will be covered in the opening credits.
That is certain of one thing.
They all look a bit...
If you...
I was going to say generic, the baddies. Some of the baddies in this show, but they all dress the same. It doesn't help sometimes in identifying good actors. And this guy is a good actor. So, we come back from the opening titles into our title, Bagman. Stephen Chase as Christian, okay. Screenplay by Terry Nation. Yes, Christian is now leading Evie through some very dilapidated buildings into a room that she's going to be locked in. That's unfortunately where Lala Ward will spend the rest of the episode with, I think, pretty much no dialogue.
Make the most of it. It's going to be home for a day or two.
Or the next 20 minutes. But what's also interesting about this, I noticed this episode is currently available on YouTube in French, where it was renamed... our villain has stepped in some yellow paint as he walked away from her room there. That's a clue. It was renamed from Bagman to Evie, which I suppose fits in with other episodes that were named after a female guest character like Lena and so on. But also I suppose the term Bagman doesn't always make sense in other languages.
Well, you've asked my advice, that's it.
He was very clear about it.
So, the Protectors have now been called in. Otherwise, it would not be a Protectors episode.
Well, I think you're making a mistake.
Then I will accept the responsibility.
And yes, first episode of the second series in production order.
If that's the way you want it.
I think it was shown as the second generally, but this would, I suppose, as we have a woman with a lot of money whose daughter has been abducted, this counts as yet another instance of
Arrange to get the
parent Rich Bags McMunnington.
Wait until he rang.
It's been a trope in this series for a while now. We've had several stories of men who are worried about their children, either because they've been kidnapped or they're up to naughty things, and they have a lot of money. They're prepared to pay a lot of money to get everything sorted out. And here we have a female, Mrs. Rich Bags McMunnington.
Eva.
Concerned about her daughter. Oh, Ava. Not. Did I call her Evie earlier?
There is a house on the coast road to Elsinore, 10.5 kilometers from your hotel. Do you have the money?
Yes.
I expect you in exactly 30 minutes.
Patricia Haynes has changed into a fairly... I'm not sure how to describe what she's wearing there. It does look sort of...
Whatever he says.
It looks like a man's fancy dress costume. But going back to Patricia Haynes...
All right.
I really like her. She turned up in all of these ITC shows. As I said, she was married to Michael Caine.
Alive.
But she only lived about 5 years after this episode was made. She died in her mid-40s. I think sort of 77, 78, which is a great shame. Because she's always really good in everything, but I've never seen her in a lead role as such. Anywho, the Protectors have been given the address to bring the money to. It's a dilapidated house. And Harry and the Contessa taking that out there now. Having a look around just in case anyone's watching them. It's all a bit quiet. Too quiet, if you follow my meaning, because this house, although it looks nice on the outside, it has seen better days on the inside. But it looks like it, with a bit of work, it could be done up a treat, really. Now, where do we leave the case full of money? Maybe upstairs? What's that say on the wall? Ingen adgang forne. I don't know what that means. If anyone speaks whatever language that is, please translate for me. But I suppose that's the advantage of location filming. You don't have to create a rundown house like this in the studio. If there is one up the road from wherever it is you're filming, just go and film there. As long as there's nobody dossing down in there when you get there. It doesn't matter that there's graffiti about the place. So, someone has arrived. The Contessa has slipped into one room. Harry has slipped into another. And we're watching some mysterious feet. Who could it be? He's got a gun. Oh, some kind of uniformed official.
I'm sorry, I thought it was someone else. It's a little joke.
This is private property. What are you doing here?
I think it's marvellous, darling. It'll need a little work, of course,
excuse
but
me, this is my wife.
Oh, the Contessa agreed with me. It is a very nice place. Yes, this uniformed official.
What's in that?
Quite interested in the case of money, though. I like that moment, though, with the Contessa sort of pretending that they were looking around the place for buying it, maybe. Oh, an empty case. Well, not empty. It's got some papers in, but not money papers. And even the Contessa is glancing at Harry as if to say, hang on, that's not part of the plan.
But it's not for sale.
What are you doing?
I'll be back this way in half an hour. I don't want to find you here.
Well.
If our man was watching, he's gone by now, so let's go.
So, we're just going to head back to the car. Okay.
One guess.
One.
What did he do with the money? Also, why are they not more suspicious about that guy with the gun? I get that he's sort of pretending to be a guard, but...
You really are a devious man, Harry Rule.
So he hid the money in a concealed compartment in the boot.
Harry?
Oh, but there's a note.
If you screw it up again, that's it. Pavement Table Cafe, Scott, tomorrow morning at 10.
Do you think he'll try to collect the money at this cafe tomorrow morning?
No, I think he's going to keep changing places so fast we can't set a trap.
Written in very nice handwriting on that note.
He'll be running all over Copenhagen.
One thing I was thinking about looking at this, and keeping in mind that this is the first episode of the second series, I do like the fact, I think that...
Make you look more like Sherlock Holmes.
There isn't as much of a difference in style and tone between Series 1 and 2 of The Protectors as there is in, say, Series 1 and 2 of, obviously, 1999, and even, to a certain extent, Supercar. You could show these in any random order, and a casual viewer wouldn't necessarily pick up that these come from two different blocks. But
alongside to help.
I do think that each... the first and second season have their own...
Both involved. Not that it helps.
Well, not strengths and weaknesses, but they have their own distinctive characteristics, let's say, because I kind of like the more upbeat tone of the first series. It's a bit... I mean, frothy was the first word that came to mind there, but comparing that to the second series where there's a lot of downbeat endings and similar... But I think, and if I'm remembering right, this is an episode that's going to be a good example of what I'm about to say. The second series made really good use of location work. I think, obviously, there was a lot of work, location work in the first series as well. Lots of nice stuff on Malta and all that. But there was a sort of generic... to some of the location filming in the first series. It's like, here's a nice field, here's a nice house. Whereas in the second series, there's more... I hope to God this is the episode that I'm thinking of, where we're going to build up to a nice...
You're representing Mrs. Anderson.
Bit of location filming that could only be done in that particular area. I'm not sure I've expressed myself all that well here. But it's like...
I tell you.
The locations, the choice of locations in the second year is often a lot more interesting and utilised quite well.
And Evie would be dead.
Anywho.
Frederiksholm Canal in 15 minutes.
Our bagman has now issued instructions to the Protectors to move them on to their next port of call. Meanwhile,
woman with you.
Paul has been asking around at the docks, where we saw Evie and Christian arrive earlier.
Well, what is it?
And wouldn't you know it, Paul showed her photo to a guy who shook his head, and then as Paul walked away...
Pepper will run you ragged.
The Willoughby Goddard guy walked into shot. Just missed him.
Your money and kills you.
I've heard of it happening like that, but why bring it up now?
I also noticed, while the Contessa and Harry have been talking here...
On your own.
In one shot of Harry, a little kid leaned into frame... and just pulled a silly face. There we go. He's immortalised forever in The Protectors. So, in case you didn't hear that, the Contessa is going in with the money, alone. That's how Christian wants it. Yes, and Lala Ward is still in the basement, very scared. I also like as well, again, going back to the themes and distinctive... what makes Series 1 and Series 2 stand out from each other is, again, the choice of countries, because Series 1 there's a lot of stuff in Malta and France, and then in Series 2 you get several episodes in Copenhagen, Salzburg, Austria, and Madrid.
Who gave you this?
So again, that's a nice clue. We know this is a second series episode because I don't think they filmed in Copenhagen in the first season. Anywho, the Contessa, with the suitcase of money, has been given a note from a small child. No doubt sending her on her way to... well, where will she end up? I am just hoping that it's the place I think she might be going. I hope this is the episode I'm thinking of. And Christian's watching her go.
Mr. Rule, tell me. Is my daughter dead already?
No.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
I am quite happy, though, that we're having this conversation out on the veranda with a lovely view of all those boats out on the harbour. Do you notice that? It just looks lovely.
Before that.
Oh. One thing I would say, a slight negative about the second series, and it's present in the first as well, and it may just be the way it was restored, but
Or a red dragonfly class boat.
I think the picture quality is just a bit too pink. Everyone looks slightly sunburnt in the second series, even when they're in like London on a rainy day.
Been told by motor cruiser yesterday morning.
The Avies?
All right, hang on, I'll be right down.
So Paul has now found Willoughby Goddard guy.
All right.
That was close. Meanwhile, the Contessa's taxi. Yes, this is what I meant about the locations. They've arrived at, well, I'm not sure how to describe it.
Tell them to call this number and give the message.
It looks like, well, it's just a lot of concrete pipes. Concrete pipes as far as the eye can see. About, 2.5 times the height of a average man, I suppose. So we get these lovely shots as the Contessa's walking through the pipes, with the camera tracking along with her, and just all right. Yes, she just looks very alone and very surrounded by huge pipes. And of course Christian is now calling out to her, and she can't see him, but he can see her. He makes her open the case to ensure that it is full of money this time.
Now, close it.
Yeah, this is what I mean when I say I think the second series uses its location far more interestingly than the first.
You go. Leave that back.
Again, I suppose a lot of it is just pure luck, pure chance.
Where's Debbie?
That they just stumbled across this place that looked really visually interesting.
What guarantee do I get?
Just tunnels stretching off into infinity, all these little bits of pipe.
You're in no position to bargain. Now get out.
Well,
I'll be watching you.
Don't let anything happen to Evie.
You're a bad man if you do. Yes, she's had to leave her handbag as well. Oh. Here comes a police car. Oh, wouldn't you know it?
I hope you brought the money.
It's our friend who wanted the money earlier. I thought earlier when he turned up, and I didn't mention it then, but I thought he had a voice like Eatstar. And now he has proven me right.
So, Harry is chatting up all the sailors now, getting more information on Evie's boat.
Oh!
Stop chatting to those sailormen and get over here. Oh no, the sailormen are coming with. Oh dear.
Airline says she's down here somewhere in the pipe works.
Well, that must be it over there.
Oh yeah, all those pipes. I can see how we missed that. They're just on the other side of the harbour. Oh dear, okay. Oh, Christian's now dressed very dapperly.
What do we do with her?
All in white, long hair, and... He's killed his police chum. Oh no. Oh, that was a nice forward roll from the Contessa there. I doubt Nairi Dawn Porter did that herself, but if she didn't, it was a very close double for her. That's it. Harry and Paul are driving around there, and wouldn't you know it, all their sailor friends are ambling along beside them, go, yeah, we're going to help. We're going to sort this out. But this is cool stuff as well, because Christian has now come into the pipeworks to kill the Contessa. But which pipe is she in? And more importantly, from her perspective, what pipe is he in? Yeah, Christian is hopping around on top of all of these pipes. Oh, she's down there. This would look really good on Blu-ray, actually. It's just such a visually striking image. Lots of places where one or other of them can be suddenly out in the open, but then there's dozens of other places where they can hide from each other. So now Harry and Paul are here.
There's not a sign of him.
Oh. Paul is running around on top of the pipes, very exposed. Harry is choosing to go through the pipes. I'm making it sound like a Mario game here.
You've been on it too.
Yeah, they're examining the body of the policeman. Was he an actual policeman? I guess he would have to be. Contessa's picked up her handbag. Oh, all of the sailors have come to help. What's that you said? What did I talk over?
Is there any money in this?
You know something?
Oh.
I might. What it is worth.
Tell me what you know. A girl is going to die.
Then it must be worth plenty.
Just tell me what you know. You can name your price.
Oh, come on, sailor man. I had faith in you earlier. You and all your sailor friends.
There's a boat in the harbour.
Show me.
Oh, okay. So the yellow paint that Christian stepped in earlier the sailor man has noticed... Yes.
She's gone.
That the policeman, the dead guy, if he was a real policeman or not...
Do I still get my money?
...also has yellow paint all over his shoes.
I think I know where that paint could have come from. I've seen it before. Where? With drums of it. All rusty, leaking all over the place. It's been abandoned for years.
Where?
Clements Island, the old fort.
Clements Island, okay.
Go back to every month.
All right.
Let's get a boat.
I smell a fourth protector being added to the ranks here. I think if they hadn't had random chubby sailor guy along to help with them with this, I think they would have been in serious trouble this week. Bit of a coincidence that this guy just happens to know about the yellow paint, and Christian and his accomplice just happen to keep stepping in it every time they go and see Evie. Anyway, Christian is now trying to get to Evie, presumably to kill her, or if not kill her, to at least move her. She has set up a trap, because she had nothing better to do with her time, poor old Lalla Ward. She's,
I said, open this door.
well, an old bookcase or shelf and a large wooden beam to sort of block the door, keep him from getting in.
Listen, I've come to take you home. Your mother, she's very concerned, you know. She's paid them.
Can't think why.
Everything's all right.
Oh, yeah.
Evie, you've got to come out sometime, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because he didn't get the money, I don't think.
Please.
It's all gone wrong from his point of view. I kind of waffled all over that. I was too enthralled by all the pipes. Don't do it, Evie. Don't do it, it's a trap.
Stupid idiot!
Oh, she nearly did it then. And then he called her names. And now he's added another attachment to his gun. Oh, here come Harry and Paul. They're going to sort it all out. Well, I suspect probably Harry on his own. Paul has been sent off in the other direction. Again, more nice use of a dilapidated, rundown location here. This shot of Harry walking towards the camera from like a mile away, and the camera just pans over. Oh, there's Christian. In his white suit, beret, and holding a gun. So, Harry has found... Oh, there's Paul. Don't shoot Paul. So Paul is assigned to rescue Evie. Harry is going up the stairs. And again, this is a nice... this episode is full of really nice locations. I hate to keep going on about it, but we have this lovely dilapidated section of wall on the side of a building here, and this gorgeous, what looks like a lighthouse right next to it. It all just looks lovely. Whoa! Oh. Well, Christian was hiding behind a door. Leapt out at Harry. Harry shot Christian. And oddly, Christian, when he gets shot, he just looks more disappointed than hit. So, as Paul leads Evie away, he's rescued her. Taking her back to the boat, where she's reunited with everyone's new Protector's character favourite, Sailor Man Who Wanted Money. Well, there we go. That was Bagman, and that was another thoroughly, I would say, you know, it's not a standout episode of the Protectors, but it is, as a lot of them are, it's slick and confident and well produced, and as I think I said there, the hallmark of the second series, some beautiful use of locations. How about we have the end credits again, but in French? Here you go.
Dans les rues et dans les avenues, on peut vendre son âme au diable si l'on veut. Ce n'est pas difficile, parfois trop facile, quand on a l'estomac creux. Tourne le manège, mais qu'il le protège, si ce n'est pas le bon Dieu.
Okay, well, look, I mean, it's within the original parameters of the randomizer.
Yeah.
So, Chris, that's okay.
Okay. I mean, it's not Tugs, is it?
It's not Tugs.
Let's put it that way.
I mean, I think I might rather watch Tugs than the Protectors, actually, but
yeah,
not in the Gerry Anderson podcast. So,
no.
Yes. Bagman.
Pardon?
Professor. It's the title of the episode.
Oh, yes, yes.
Perhaps we'll never know. Yeah,
No.
Professor Victor Bagman.
Bagman.
Anyway,
Bagman.
yes. Bagman?
Bag lady?
Bagman.
No.
With like you.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, let's move on.
Sorry.
Thanks, Chris, for that. More Chris and more Randomiser next week, hopefully with more Gerry Anderson stuff.
Yes!
Great.
Look forward to that, yeah. Oh, in the meantime, can I just say, Jamie, everyone listening now, stop what you're doing, subscribe, rate, review, follow, leave a review, leave a rating.
Send an email.
Share on your socials.
Create a podcast dance.
Yes, that's it.
Hang on, I think I might have just hit on something there. Because the theme is cool. And I've seen on social media people like creating dances to stuff like the Antiques Roadshow.
Right.
So Podstrons, throwing down the challenge to you now. Could you create a Gerry Anderson podcast theme dance?
Well, look forward to that. How are we going to play that on the podcast?
Well, go on YouTube, won't it? And in the Podsterons Facebook group, which will encourage more people to go there because they'll want to see it and learn it.
Okay, Jamie, I can bet now we won't get a single entry to that.
Podsterons, please prove Richard Teaser James wrong. I would really appreciate that. I'd almost appreciate you proving him wrong more than the dance itself.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yes.
So, but there's a dance to the Joe 90 theme, which I have done several times, which is great.
Right.
I don't know of any others, but
I
feel like it's something that we need to do. We need to create.
Okay, look forward to it.
Good. And then perhaps, Richard, you and I can do it at a future live podcast.
Now that I'd be up for.
Well, would you?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
Yeah, see,
that sounds great.
It's sounding more and more worth it every stage.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anywho.
Now I'm on board.
I think we should probably move on.
Right.
I feel like we're rapidly approaching the end. In fact, could this be the end?
But the moment's been prepared for.
Oh, yes! See, I was going to do that if you didn't. Anyway, we're crossing out of Anderson into something else now, and Chris is going to slap our wrists. No, I've got nothing else to say.
No,
so
I'm spent.
Good.
That's it.
Well,
done. Dusted.
Feels like the perfect moment to end Pod 247 of the Gerry Anderson podcast. You have been listening to Jamie Anderson, Richard James.
What are you doing?
And Chris
Just say
Dale.
goodbye.
Oh, sorry. Goodbye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
I should have done in order of appearance. Actually, because it was that, wasn't it? Me, you, and Chris.
Yes, I suppose it was, yes.
Yeah.
Or yes. I'd prefer top billing if you don't mind.
Well, we know what happens there, don't we?
What?
Well, you get it in your contract and then have to get it pulled out again.
That's true. That did happen, yes.
Yeah, see,
you remember that story?
I remember the stories you told me. Yeah,
that's right. God, that's funny. I've still got the letter from my agent.
That should be up in the loo, really, shouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's toilet wall worthy paperwork,
definitely.
that is.
Definitely, yeah. What have you got anything in your downstairs loo that's Anderson related or career related?
No, I don't. But in the family home, Dad has got, he put up a painting, one of the house, which is done by the architect who designed the house, of a kind of Thunderbirds-esque disaster happening around the house. Not as dramatic as it sounds, but like,
sure.
Nice. Thunderbird 2 is flying low over the house, and somebody's like been thrown out of the window. It's really fun. I'll try and take a picture of somewhere there.
That'd be
and
great.
Also a lovely poster that Bob Bell did. I think I'm getting this story right. This is a great post-credit story.
Yeah.
So Bob was a prisoner of war, and in the prison camp, they had a group of musicians and actors and stuff, and they put on little plays while they were prisoners.
Oh, yeah.
And Bob was the kind of director and art director of this play. It sounds very grand for it,
doesn't it?
while being a prisoner of war.
Yeah.
And they put on a thing of Pygmalion.
Oh, yes.
And Bob drew and watercoloured a poster for Pygmalion, and that is in the downstairs loo. Isn't that bizarre? It's such a lovely, so beautiful.
Yeah.
And such a weird story. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So those are in the family
Nice.
loo.
Oh,
I've got
good.
nothing in the loo other than toilet paper.
No. Well, I'm glad I asked.
and we know what's on your toilet cistern.
Beg your pardon?
Your multicom.
Well, it's not actually in my new house. No.
Oh, of course, it used to be there.
Yeah, that's right.
Where is the multicom now?
Well, it's packed away safely with the gun in a cupboard under the stairs.
Surely that should be in the loo.
Yeah, you got to be careful about leaving stuff like that lying around, particularly the gun, though, haven't you?
Yeah, I suppose.
I always think. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, but
fine.
I've still got it, of course. Still got it. Oh, yeah.
I look forward to investigating your loo on my next visit.
Right. That's something to look forward to.
Okay,
All
I'll
right.
go away now.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.
Make sure you flush.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.